Hi, my name's Chloe Austerberry. I'm going to talk you through some exciting new research that we've been working on in the GEL lab on genetic and environmental influences on infant psychological development and milestones. Twin studies have been used for over a century to estimate relative contributions of genes and the environment to psychological and developmental traits. Twin studies make use of the fact that monozygotic twins, otherwise known as identical twins, share 100% of their genes, whereas dizygotic or non-identical twins share on average 50% of their genes. So if monozygotic twins are more similar on a given trait than dizygotic twins are, this suggests that genes influence individual differences in that trait. However, if monozygotic and dizygotic twins are equally similar with regards to a particular trait, it seems likely that the environment influences that trait more than genetic factors. So we can use this and apply statistical formula to correlations between monozygotic and dizygotic twins on a given trait to give us estimates of the relative contribution of first, genes, second, the environment that's shared by members of the same family, and third, the environment that is not shared or is unique to the individual with regards to that trait. So in 2015, Polderman and colleagues published a landmark meta-analysis synthesizing virtually all twin studies of human traits. Meta-analysis is the statistical procedure for combining data from multiple studies. Because the results of individual studies can vary quite a lot, or be limited by issues like small sample size, it can be extremely helpful to synthesize findings across all of the existing literature and find out what studies are telling us overall. Despite the importance of infancy as a period of rapid postnatal growth and development, the causes of variation in infant traits remain largely unknown, as no one has ever synthesized the findings on genetic and environmental influences on infant traits specifically. So we decided to do just that, to meta-analyse estimates from twin studies of the relative contributions of genes and the environment to all psychological traits and developmental milestones in infancy, so from 0 to 2 years old. We identified almost 5,000 papers in databases and reference lists. 350 of these looked promising based on their titles and abstracts, so we screened the full texts of those papers. We were left with around 140 studies that met our inclusion criteria to include in our meta-analysis. We organised the findings from these studies into the 15 domains displayed in this word cloud. Size of word corresponds to the number of findings on that particular trait. So, for example, growth, which included measures like height and weight, was the domain that we found the largest number of studies on. The full meta-analysis is currently underway, and we haven't finished analysing results in all of these 15 categories, but we do have some preliminary findings to report. We meta-analysed, so synthesised all of the findings from, all of the studies that we identified on attention, language, basic and higher level cognitive ability, as well as a combined analysis of all of them together. The results are displayed here in this figure. Collectively, in the combined meta-analysis of all of these, individual differences in cognitive and language abilities had an overall heritability of 42%. So there was evidence that these individual differences were 42% driven by genetic differences, and there was moderate influence from the shared and the non-shared environment. However, you can see when you look at each of the little pie charts that when the different abilities were meta-analysed individually, there were differences between them. For instance, individual differences in attention appeared to be the most influenced by genetic differences, whereas higher level cognitive abilities had a much lower heritability. There was also variability in which cognitive and language abilities were more or less influenced by the shared and non-shared environment. For instance, differences in higher level cognitive ability appear to be highly influenced by the unique environment that is not shared by twins growing up in the same home, whereas language and basic cognitive abilities appear to be influenced a lot by the environment that is shared by family members. Overall, we have strong evidence that even as early as the first 2 years of life, individual differences in cognitive abilities are influenced by genes, as well as by the shared and non-shared environment. Our next steps will be to synthesize the findings from the remaining 10 categories, so watch this space. Thank you very much for listening, and do reach out via email if you have any questions.